took every other Hall of Fame in the United States that involved motorsports or drag racing, I'd take this team and this group of people and we'd go out and we'd kick their ass.
2 minutes? In the 5 minute. Okay, Earwood, how much trouble do you want to get in?
5 minutes, I want to hear about that.
I think I'm going to stay away from the 5 minute here. Well, I've known Steve Earwood for more than 50 years, that's 5-0. Back when he was the National Media Relations Director, or the NHRA, and I was trying to make a name for myself in Top Fuel. Earwood was based out of California back then, and I was racing out of Michigan. But somehow we both ended up living in the great state of North Carolina. The Jeff Bird Lifetime Achievement Award recognizes those who have made significant contributions to the state's rich drag racing history, and it sure is, more so than the Motor City, Michigan. Get to talk about that someday, I hope. And the history, and that's certainly something that my great friend Steve Earwood has accomplished. More than 30 years ago, he fulfilled a lifetime dream of track ownership, which brought in Rockingham Dragway, and when he bought the Rockingham Dragway and turned a rundown and seldom used track into an energetic and busy racing facility that hosted events on all but a half dozen weekends each racing year. And until the early 2000s. He also hosted NASCAR racing on its oval. Earwood was a founding member of the North Carolina Motorsports Association and a member of the Governor's Advisory Council. That's why we're all here today. Before he bought the Rock, he had served as marketing and PR director at the Texas Motorplex upon its opening in 1986, and also co-owned Atlanta Dragway during its multi-million-dollar rehab makeover, and that was in 1990. When Earwood bought the Rockingham track in February of '92 with a party of investors, I didn't know that, the track was in bad shape, almost as bad as Earwood's bank balance. But there's a funny story about that, and I'll share it with you. He bought the domain, therock.com, from a jeweler in San Francisco for $400. And later he sold it to the WWF for $250,000. So that it could become the website for the wrestler, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Do you love that one? Earwood, that negotiator, he's really something. That helped keep the track almost afloat for many, many years. As he was in the 1970s for NHRA, and as it was until he sold the track in the late 2022, Steve Earwood was one of the rocks of the foundation that made North Carolina auto racing and a special community that it is. Did I get through that all right, Steve? Did I tell any lies? Okay, now I'm good. No, I'm not. Again, Steve, love to present you with an award that you so richly deserve. Step right up here.
Shirley Muldowney, 3-time NHRA Top Fuel. Dear friend for a number of years, and she's helped my career immensely. You really have no idea what you've done for me. And it's great to get acknowledged in these rewards. And Shirley's been in a few Hall of Fames I've been inducted in: the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, NHRA Southeastern Drag Racing Hall of Fame, East Coast Hall of Fame. But this Hall of Fame means more to me to be recognized by my peers here in North Carolina. When I bought the track in '92, as Shirley mentioned, I promoted over 100 national events for Wally Parks and NHRA. I'd opened the Texas Motorplex. And when I came to North Carolina, I thought I knew everything. Well, I did know everything about national events and dealing with professional racers. The Shirley Muldowney's, Don Perdones, Don Gart's, John Ford's, even Ricky Smith's of the world. But Jim Turner probably helped me more than anybody on how to deal with the North Carolina bracket racer, or something I wasn't familiar with dealing with. And, fortunately, we had some very successful bracket races over the years and did quite well. I don't deserve any of this, quite frankly. Any spectator who ever bought a ticket to Rockingham Dragway, any racer who ever bought a tech card, every sponsor who ever spent $1 with me, every sports writer who ever wrote a word about Rockingham or about NHRA Drag Racing back when I was promoting the national events, any sportscaster, that's who deserves any recognition and honor that I may have been able to force enough to receive. And I'm sincerely indebted to all those folks, every employee I ever had, every lawyer that represented me in every lawsuit I ever had. Takes a lot. But it's been a great industry, and it's the one thing that I've always loved about drag racing is the work ethic. We all live by that Protestant work ethic. And as Rod mentioned earlier, and the brothers mentioned about how total dedication it takes from every aspect to be successful in this industry, whether it be a track owner, crew chief, racer, or whatnot. It takes an awful lot of effort. And I don't wear my religion on my sleeves, but quite frankly, folks, I learned some years ago that if you put God first, if you live by His principles, it's just amazing how successful you'll be in life, not only financially and in business, but with just getting along with each other. So I recommend you read that rule book, the Holy Bible. It's got it pretty well covered. Roy Hill was going to be here today, and actually I owe Roy more than any other individual for my success at Rockingham because of his resilience, if you will. He was determined we would buy that track in '92, and there's some other creative financing that Shirley touched on. We were able to purchase the track in '92. If it wasn't for Roy, my ex-wife would not be the wealthy woman she is today. Well, myself. But I like to thank Roy. Roy came here. He wanted to make sure everybody knew he is not under a witness protection program. He's racing at an event down in Orlando, Florida. And he was going to do some closing remarks, but he can't do that. But someone is going to stand in for him. Some years ago, this fellow came in office and he said he's going to have the biggest pro mod race ever at Rockingham Dragway. Now, I heard it all. Like I say, when I moved here in '92, I did know it all. Or I did anyway. So this guy blows and goes, and he's going to give away free tickets, have the biggest crowd ever. Well, I prepped up for like 2,700 people. At 27,000, we had to close the gates because we were overrun. That was the first ADRL race in Rockingham. I think some of you folks were there. And I want to thank Mr. Kenny Nowling for that. Champagne Kenny, as I called him, because Kenny came up with this bizarre idea of free ticket giveaway, and that really ran its course and was quite successful. So Kenny wanted to say something on behalf of Roy, so Champagne Kenny.
If you had ever told this kid at 4 years old that he'd be standing up here in front of so many legends and following remarks from Shirley Muldowney and Steve Earwood, Robbie Vanderdrift, the Weiss Carver brothers, my hero, Larry McBride, Wally Stroop, it's just overwhelming. And then you look out and you see guys like Ricky Smith and Charles Carpenter. And when you look on the back of that pamphlet, if you just, you can't read 3 or 4 names without coming across someone that has such an indelible and life-lasting impact on the sport of drag racing. If you take every other drag racing Hall of Fame, and I can say this now because as of January the 1st, we actually live in Pinehurst, North Carolina, so I'm an implanted, after all these years, we had so much success at Rockingham, as Steve said, and my beautiful wife Jessica couldn't be here today, but we wanted to move to North Carolina way back then. And I figured we could just put on events at Steve's track. I'd never have to leave the house, and we'd all do great. So humbly, we were able to do it for a lot of years around the country and meet a lot of great people. One of those people that I was able to meet was the aforementioned Roy Hill back in 2001 when I was still overseeing the NHRA MS Pro Mod Challenge. Roy came to me and he said, I understand that you have a weight break for anything pre-1972. Well, he had just taken delivery of a early 2000s model Jerry Haas Mustang built in Benton, Missouri, my home state. And about a week later, he sends myself a picture, and he wanted me to share it with my two partners at the time, Dave Wood and Tommy Leeper, of his new 66 Ford Mustang, which was essentially a front end that him and Mr. Haas got together and got very creative with. And to this day, although we've broke bread together many, many times, he helped raise my amazing sons, KJ and Joey. Took KJ from a junior dragster kid at Rockingham one Sunday morning after that event in 2006 that Steve spoke of, and turned him into not only a champion and an eventual drag stock winner, but also he runnered up at the U.S. Nationals in class his first year when he was 19. Roy Hill has two, as I always say to him, he has two personalities. He's Roy Hill, and then he's America's uncle. And Uncle Roy, we all know, loves to cut up and he loves to carry on. But if you've ever had time, and I had one of the most rewarding experiences my entire career was sitting with Mr. Steve Earwood not too long ago at Roy's shop as Steve's doing a biography and listening to those two tell stories. And when it got to the part about family, Roy couldn't keep it together. He asked Steve if we could just take a minute. He couldn't keep it together talking about his mom and the people that influenced him. The late night conversations that I've been able to have with Uncle Roy over the years have meant so much to me. When you're able to, again, grow up admiring the people, the Ricky Smiths and the Charles Carpenters and the Robbie Vandergriffs, the Bill Coolmans, the Blake Wilders, the Steve Vick, there's so many heroes, Wally Stroop. When you're able to do that and then you're able to spend time with them, you get to know the real person. And all too often, as it was mentioned earlier by Bobby Bennett, who, congratulations by the way, he said the same thing I did. We didn't know if it'd make it 25 minutes with the ADRL. Well, he's 25 years now with Competition Plus, so congratulations for him and all the great things he's done for our sport. But Roy mentioned so many people that had an influence in his life. And there wasn't 2 or 3 conversations that would ever go by where he didn't mention Jim Turner's name. And being an aspiring promoter, after I learned, as Alan Reinhardt put it so prophetically, when KJ won his first NHRA round, the driving gene skipped a generation in the Nowling family. My daddy was a heck of a super stock driver. KJ ended up doing very well. Me, not so much. So I took that promoting ability and I cultivated it. And it was guys like Jim Turner and Steve Earwood, Bob Harris. They're all legends, and I thought, what is with the state of North Carolina? What is in the water down? And then when you start again, when you read the back of the brochure for the Hall of Fame induction today, I can tell you that it is a virtual who's who. And if you took every other Hall of Fame in the United States that involved motorsports or drag racing, I'd take this team and this group of people, and we'd go out and we'd kick their ass, I promise you. So, having the ability to know Mr. Jim Turner's beautiful wife, Dora, and getting to know his sons, Jay and Bubba,
yes,
and what Jay's done, I can just tell you, there's no one, and Roy wanted me to come up here and convey just one thing crystal clearly. Of all the people that have influenced his life, there's 2 people that have stood out heads and tails above everyone else. The late T. Wayne Robertson, who did so much for the sport of drag racing, right here from the great state of North Carolina, that I mentioned I'm a resident now, so thrilled about that, I can't tell you. And then Jim Turner. Roy would have conversations with Jim all the way up until the week prior to his passing and going home to the kingdom of heaven. And every time I saw that man get off the phone with Jim Turner, he had a little bit of a tear in his eye. And he said, "You'll never meet a finer man." I was able to have the pleasure of meeting Jim. There are no one, as you said earlier about the song, those are shoes that can't be filled. They just simply can't be filled. I know how proud he was of Jay and Bubba, and I know how proud he is looking down today at what Bubba's done and taking this thing over, especially under the pressure of having just lost your father, who is truly a legend and someone that will never, ever be replicated. Jim Turner didn't know a stranger, And I can promise you, if there's a Mount Rushmore of drag racing promoters and drag racing people, not to mention the fact, I don't know if you know this, I know Greg does, Jim Turner was a baseball player. If you go back and you study Jim Turner, he was the captain of the baseball team at Campbell University, and he loved to talk baseball. So, Bubba, I know how proud he is to you. Steve's giving me to wrap it up because he knows Kenny Nowling has never spoke less than 3 minutes in his entire life. So that's why he saved it for the end. But Jim Turner, Dora Turner, Bubba, your family.
Jane.
Wow. Jane, everybody. You cannot, Jay, turn the crazy guys that strap themselves on those motorcycles. But before I let you go, I will say this. Steve Earwood getting the Jeff Bird Award right before I'm able to come up and speak about someone the caliber of Jim Turner on behalf of Roy Hill is absolutely the highlight of my career. So this tops it all. You guys, thank you so much for everything that you've done in the sport of drag racing. The state of North Carolina is the motorsports capital of the world. It's absolutely the drag racing capital of the world. So thank you.
I did not, and you know, the older you get, you know, I've been doing this since the 1850s, and so the vendor's not what it used to be. I'd like to introduce our board of directors for North Carolina Racing Hall of Fame. Will you folks please stand or wave for the members of the board that are here today? Thank you so much for all y'all do. If you have any suggestions for candidates to be in our Hall of Fame, those are the folks you'll see. And I am one of them also, and I'll accept cash. And then we'll make up a resume if need be. And I saw Don Miller earlier. Don, are you still here? Don, thank you so much for being here. Proprietor of North Carolina Motorsports Museum. Don was Roger Piskey's right-hand man for a number of years. And thank you so much for taking time out. Pretty big weekend in your world. I appreciate you being here with us, living down in Daytona.
I really can't say much more that had been said already today about my parents. They truly were legends in my eyes. This was the last thing they worked on together. Dad, this was his baby. He would be really happy with the turnout. He'd be really proud of the job that my brother did. Thank you.
Thanks everybody so much. This has really got a catch in my back. Thanks a lot. God bless.
And all my deputies, we got the awards, we'll get pictures. How do we do this, Greg, as far as pictures, one at a time?